flashy moves, crazy outplay potential, high skill cap. This champion is gonna be a fun one, fellas. Hey gamers, I'm Kangas here with my first ever Pro Guides video, and to start off, I'll be going over SAMIRA'S kit as well as basic combos and playstyle. Our high elo friends have hopped onto the PvE servers to get a first look at SAMIRA, and the general consensus is that she is really strong and really fun to play. We believe that she is a champion that can easily take over games in 1v9 if played properly, similar to champs like Vayne or Katarina. Now that I've pointed that out, she plays almost exactly like a ranged and AD version of Katarina, since SAMIRA has a dash reset and a bunch of AoE spinning attacks that deal an absurd amount of damage. Anyway, she is definitely a champ with a high ceiling, meaning that you can always improve something on her, and has a bunch of outplay potential. I'll try to give you guys all the stuff you need to know in order to have that head start on mastering SAMIRA when she comes out on the live servers. And as a last little reminder, we have only played a couple games with SAMIRA, so we might not be 100% correct on how we think she should be played. Also, these are initial thoughts on her in solo lanes, so keep that in mind. Even though we might not know exactly how to play SAMIRA, our friends at ProGuides can help you with pretty much everything else. We have live courses taught by your favorite pros and recorded lessons if you want more than that. Don't forget to try our new VOD reviewing system, where you can simply send in a VOD of your choice and our coaches will give you critical feedback on the game. And also guys, we're doing a giveaway for 3 free VOD review sessions. All you need to do is enter and create a ProGuides.com account, and then enter the giveaway through our Discord, which will be linked in the description. Now, onto the question of the day. What are your thoughts on all these new champions coming out? There have been some complex champions like Aphelios, and annoying ones like Lilia. Also, what kind of champions would you like to see in the future? A champion with a simpler kit like Malphite, or something more sophisticated like Jace? Let us know in the comments below. Now let's dive right into SAMIRA'S spells. So SAMIRA'S passive has multiple parts to it, like 3 parts. The most basic part of her passive is how her auto attacks switch from melee to ranged depending on how close her target is. She targets people with her gun at a range, and when they're close enough, she will do a melee attack that deals extra magic damage. The second part of her passive is when a teammate impairs the movement of an enemy. She will first dash in range for her autos if she is too far, and she can extend the duration of the displacement by a little and add extra damage. The last part of her passive is her style grade mechanic. Starting from an E rank, her style rank increases with every non-repeating basic attack or ability until she reaches an S rank, and she gets bonus movement speed with every style grade increase. This one is important for her ult, we'll get to that later. So her Q works similarly to her passive in the way that the spell works differently depending on how far your target is. So if no target is near her when she uses this ability, she shoots her pistol and deals damage to the first target it hits. This is used as your main form of ranged poke and for medium range trades, where your bread and butter combo is a simple auto Q auto. Your Q, when there is a target in front of her, slashes everyone in a cone, similar to Yone's W. This is the skill you want to be spamming for wave clear and during team fights when there are multiple opponents clumped up. Also, the skill has around a 2-second cooldown when maxed and can crit, so you can deal out a bunch of damage in later parts of the game. An AoE Yasuo wind wall that deals damage. That's SAMIRA'S W in a nutshell. It sounds pretty OP, but it only lasts for a second, so it can be pretty hard to time correctly since she is a very high mobility champ with low cooldown spells. What we mean by this is that it can get quite difficult to juggle constant repositioning and proper DPSing with her auto attacks and other spells. The spell also deals damage in the beginning and in the end of the cast, which can be a way to use the spell aggressively for extra damage and not just to destroy enemy projectiles. Moving on to her E. This is her main mobility spell that works similar to a Fizz Q or a Kiana Q, with the exception of being able to dash through teammates. The spell deals a bit of damage and gives a good amount of attack speed at the end of the cast for those all-ins you might be going for. Adding on, you can use your Q in the middle of the E cast to deploy bombs down the path and detonate after the spell completion, dealing the same Q damage around that area. Don't forget though, you don't have to use this spell aggressively. If you are getting ganked or are in an unfavorable fight, you can use your E onto a teammate or onto a minion to dash out of there. And one last thing to point out is that this spell resets on takedown, so this is definitely a playmaking spell as you jump from target to target from getting multiple kills. Or you can look for a flashy dive by going in with your E, getting a kill, and dashing out with a cooldown reset. And lastly, her ultimate ability. This spell is bonkers in terms of total damage you can deal in a teamfight. This spell is pretty much a Katarina ult with the ability to walk around while still channeling. Pretty much what we were trying to say is that if no one stops your ult, you will deal tons of damage, especially when you have enough crit in your build, as the spell can also critically strike. But this also means that you are really susceptible to getting CC'd and instantly dying, since you have to be in range of people in order to deal damage. So if the enemy is playing something like Lissandra or Pantheon or anyone with a point-and-click stun, your life may be miserable if you play SAMIRA. Pretty much, you won't be able to get those 1v9 ultis all the time since there's a bunch of counterplay, so you'll probably use this ult on the front line and possibly the back line if all forms of CC are off the table. This spell does not have a cooldown, but the only caveat is that your style grade must be on an S to cast it. That means that you will need to get some hits in before you can dive in with your ult. But don't worry, it's pretty easy to rank up your style since your Q is on a really short cooldown and is relatively easy to land. She plays somewhat like Katarina in the way that they both deal a ton of AoE damage and need to be up close to your opponents to be effective. However, we do think Samira is a better version of Katarina because she is ranged and can still contest for CS if you fall behind. With that said, Samira can be a lane bully even when her attack range is pretty short because of her long range Q and the ability to burst down opponents. That means that as a counter pick, she can get a natural lead and be able to use that to easily 1v2 if you ever get ganked in a solo lane. If you decide to play her bot lane, we suggest that you pair this champion with CC heavy supports like Leona and Nautilus so you have more opportunities to lay down your whole combo and take over the game. Having a Tark or Kayle in your team comp would be insane as well since you can go all in and forget about getting one shot. She is definitely a snowbally champion that also scales really well since she goes crit items, so make sure that if you do get a lead somewhere, you spread it by looking for skirmishes, as your AoE damage is insane. She does a bunch of damage, but make sure to keep in mind that your spacing and how you approach fights is crucial on champions like Samira. You can compare Samira to Vayne as she can easily 1v9 if played by someone with good mechanics, but can easily be shut down if played improperly. Like Vayne, you need to make sure that there are no immediate threats like point-and-click stuns or heavy-hitting spells you can't dodge or block with your W, as you are just as squishy as any other marksman and will get killed instantly if you are not careful. One more comparison that we want to add is that you should be playing Samira like Kai'Sa in the way that you play front to back in teamfights and take any opportunity to go all in with your E and ult if it arises. Continuing on, a weakness that we have pinpointed for the champion is that it will be really hard to come back into the game or help the team out since you have no form of utility or CC to offer. Champions like Ashe have her Hawkshot, W, and her ult to get vision, slow, and stun targets for utility. Samira pretty much only has raw damage, so she will need to be extra careful or she will probably be useless until later in the game. One other weakness that she has is the one we have mentioned earlier where point-and-click CC will probably instantly kill Samira in a teamfight if she is not spacing properly. Sure, you can say this is obvious for any AD carry, but keep in mind, she's a very short-ranged AD carry, and she doesn't offer any forms of utility in teamfights, so she needs to be right in the fight to be of any use. Consequently, she will be in the range of more abilities that will surely kill her instantly, so being conscious of your spacing, knowing when you can go in, and mastering her W and E will be crucial for you to survive longer and succeed with this champion. So we laid out a general guideline on how Samira is as a champion. Now here are some tips and tricks for Samira. During her laning phase, your main trading pattern will be an auto Q auto, using your W to destroy any hard-hitting projectiles. If your opponent is close enough, you can look for more damage by using the damage from W and using E instead to dodge any skill shots. Make sure that if you are using W or E aggressively, you are safe from any potential ganks from proper vision or perfect information. An optimal all-in sequence that you can use when your opponent has no real way to answer it, such as having no CC or not having enough damage to kill you, is auto attack, E, auto attack, Q, auto attack, W, R. This whole rotation will allow you to get S rank the fastest and allow you to end the combo with your ultimate and dish out an insane amount of DPS. This one does the most DPS to a single target only and is not the most effective combo for team fights, so keep that in mind. One combo you can use if you're looking for a dive is an E into kill into E out. Your E resets on kill, so this one is a bit risky if you haven't calculated your risks when you go in, as you will need to go in and then quickly kill them to dash out with the reset. Since Samira does a lot of damage quickly, which is burst, it's definitely possible. One thing to point out is that your W can be used for damage or to prevent the enemy from outplaying you from stopping a crucial skill shot like a Camille hookshot. It can't block turret shots though, so might as well use it when you're going for the dive. One more kill move that you can use is to E onto a minion and Q for a slash into auto attacks. Your E gives you attack speed, so after using your Q, you can look for an all-in with your auto attacks and W if they are low enough. For maximum AoE damage, you can look for an E into Q to deploy the bombs, Q to slash everyone, and R using your W to destroy anything that can potentially kill you. This one is a bit risky because you are still on AD carry, so you're extremely squishy. You have to wait until the perfect time, which is when the enemy has used their main source of CC and or damage to go in. This combo is perfect when you see that 1v9 opportunity to just massacre everyone, but those opportunities won't come up too often if the enemy team is cognizant of your full combo. For most team fights, it will probably be looking to DPS safely on the sides, using your E to reposition after a kill, and going all in with your R when appropriate. Remember, it's perfectly fine to use your ult on 1 or 2 targets, since the more targets you are hitting, the more likely you are to get interrupted or simply get bursted down. There's probably a bunch more combos we didn't mention in this video, so make sure you do your own limit testing to see what works and what doesn't when she comes out, as she is a champion that you need to know extremely well in order to get the most of. From what we know so far, we think she will be quite strong on release if her numbers do not change. In terms of raw damage, she is definitely among one of the top DPSers. She has a bunch of outplay potential with her W and E, and also seems like she can be flexible with her build path. We aren't 100% sure whether she's actually OP or not, but we at least know that she is extremely fun to play and has a buttery smooth auto attack animation that you should be looking forward to. Well, that's all we have for you today. Make sure that you check out ProGuides.com for all of your solo queue nades, and we'll see you in the next one.